So I want to get started here by welcoming Kevin and Nicolette. Kevin, I believe we met one year when we were in your area, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, well, great. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. And Nicolette, did we get to meet when we were out there? I'm not sure.
I don't believe so.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Well, now we're meeting. Let's pretend like it's in person.
Okay.
So, yeah. Well, it's super great to have you guys. Do you want to share screen, and do you want me to ask you any particular, do you want me to just let it rip and ask you questions, or do you have like a
So we have a presentation where we're going to go over kind of our lessons learned in the last year as we switch to remote learning or hybrid learning from the instructional side, and then from the technology, instructional technology side. So Kevin and I are going to tag team. He and I have been partners in crime over the last year. So
we've had other districts say that this tech and curriculum side has been like a forced marriage, like hardcore in the last year.
Well, no, it's a good marriage, not forced marriage. It's a good marriage.
It's a good marriage. Good. Okay, well, this is awesome. So I'm going to stop sharing, and you take the screen and let it rip. I'm going to take my camera off, so all the attention is on you, and I'll be on mute until you need me.
All right, tell me what you see right now. Are you seeing the actual slide or the?
Yep, I see remote learning lessons from Winston-Salem. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and get started. So Nicolette Grant, Chief Academic Officer for Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools. And Kevin?
And Kevin Sherill, I'm the Assistant Superintendent in charge of information technology. And I'll just say one thing before I hand it back to Nicolette. Partnership with instructional services and technology has always been here in Winston-Salem. It's always been a strong partnership over the years. So it's not something that we had to invent or bring groups together. So I'm encouraged by that we've always had a strong partnership, and Nicolette's leadership in the curriculum and instruction area has gone a long way to make that happen.
All right, so as many districts, we all had to make a transition to remote learning. I'm sure a year ago, February, no one knew what this was or had any envisioning of this occurring. But the presentation, we're going to go over kind of our preparation when we had to quickly shift to remote learning, some reflections on our first attempt, some successes, and some learnings on how we adjusted our remote learning for our students. So for us, on March 13th, our world in North Carolina changed. That was the date that our governor declared that we were going to close schools for the safety of our staff and students. Luckily, Kevin and I had a chance to meet with teacher leaders who had a strong instructional technology background, and we provided a training for them a few days before this happened, just helping them to get the teachers ready for this transition, to prepare their teachers for moving their content and curriculum to an online platform. And so when we closed last March, a couple of things that we focused on, moving all of the teacher resources to Power School Learning so that all students would have access to this digital resources and platform. We had some struggles initially about having teachers teach live instruction. We were concerned about any legal implications or any challenges our teachers would have with that, and whether they had the device, the skill, technology. So in the spring, we pretty much had just asynchronous instruction. So students provided work for students to do. The teachers provided work for students to do. Students completed them and submitted them. We did not have live instruction in the spring. We also, at the end of the school year last year, decided to switch from Power School Learning to Canvas as our learning management system. And so we started with the Instructional Services Division, all of our content directors, first moving all of their content to Canvas, learning Canvas, developing a model on a platform for teachers, and then over the summer training teachers in Canvas and getting all of their materials moved over as a district-wide platform. This was accelerated from our original timeline. So we had the work on the asynchronous instructional platform. Kevin's team worked on distributing devices. He's going to give you a little bit more information about that. As a state, we had to change kind of our grading criteria and requirements. And then at the end of last year, we did some analysis and reflections on what worked well, what didn't work well, and how could we fix that for the future. So one of the things that did not work well is the student engagement. Not having that live instruction, students did not feel connected to the teachers. Teachers did not have that connection to the students. It was hard to keep the students engaged. And with the state grading requirements, any work that was done in the spring could not hurt or pull a child's grade down. And for some students, that it was also a disincentive to continue to remain engaged. So what we did was get some feedback from our teachers, feedback from our students. And our next plan was to develop live instruction, and we actually did that over the summer. So our summer school, we offered virtually, but we provided small sessions of live instruction with teachers, and we gave families an option of times in which they wanted their summer school session. We had small group instruction for students so that the class size was about 5 to 1 and provided some really intensive instruction. We then took some feedback from our summer school, what worked well with those small synchronous sessions, what do we need to do differently, and how can we use that to plan our return to school this fall. So we offered for our teachers over 200 sessions of professional development opportunities to learn content, to learn about the new digital resources we procured, to learn about teaching synchronously. We developed a remote learning plan for our district, including schedules for times for live instruction and asynchronous instruction. And then we developed this really intensive reopening plan in conjunction with Kevin and his team. One of the things we started with our remote learning was a playlist. So teaching teachers how to use playlists within their instructional plans. And so we ensured K-12 that teachers developed playlists for students that had student-friendly learning targets, very clear, succinct, compacted content, allowed for processing for students, and then a product. And we provided professional development for teachers and taught how to differentiate instruction through differentiating the target for students based on data, differentiating your content that you may need to focus on, differentiating the process in which students provided evidence of learning, and also differentiated the products that students could produce. So that was kind of our first shift as we were getting our teachers ready for this remote learning, to develop these playlists for students. On the right-hand side is a sample playlist from a first grade class, having steps for students to complete, to learn it, practice it, show what they know, and then prove what they know. And so teachers is a sample of something that our teachers were providing for their students, and then with target dates. This is a landing page for the Canvas platform that we all moved to as a district. Within Canvas, again, our team set up our instructional pacing guides, resources, digital links. We developed playlist samples for teachers. And then all of the professional development that we offered since last year, we recorded and put that also in Canvas. So teachers had right then and there on demand PD recordings that they can go back and review professional development as they needed. We also had some teachers who developed a choice board. So in addition to playlists, we used choice boards for the students as well for differentiation. As a district, we also use Flex Fridays. Now we've moved those to Wednesday, but we provided a day during the week where the teachers had extended planning time, knowing the challenges that our teachers were having with learning how to teach in a digital platform, developing these playlists, developing curriculum resources, assessments, and feedback loops. So we developed Flex Fridays as a district to give teachers that extended planning time. We also, on those Flex Fridays, incorporated office hours for parents, knowing that our parents were our second educators for the students since they were learning at home. We wanted to make sure that parents felt like they had the resources and the support to help their child at home during remote learning. So those Flex days allowed for that extended planning for teachers, the office hours for parent support, and it also offered opportunities for small group instruction for teachers to pull kids in that were struggling and needed support. This larger sample is a page of professional development offerings that we had for our assistant principals and instructional facilitators. So we would still continue our PD in small sessions with each one of these are hyperlinked to Microsoft Teams meetings. And so in addition to teaching remotely, we also provided ongoing professional development in live synchronous sessions for our administrators. When we started to come back in the, probably in November, we also moved our teachers to the idea of concurrent classrooms or concurrent instruction. And that was hybrid instruction where the teachers would teach students that were both remote and those students that started to return back to the classroom for face-to-face instruction. So we developed schedules, best practices, videos to support teachers. We had instructional technology facilitators set up the devices in the classrooms and train teachers on how to utilize Microsoft microphone camera system to teach both students at home and in school, simultaneously using concurrent classroom practices. And then I'll turn it over to Kevin to kind of talk about some of the devices, and then we will have some question and answer.
Great. So
Kevin,
as Nicolette mentioned, as we jumped into this together, my role with my staff was just to support instruction the best we could with everything that was changing. So we rapidly deployed close to 40,000 Chromebooks. We had plans to roll out a one-to-one program last year, but with the pandemic, we had to just kind of scramble and do things a little bit differently. So we distributed to all of our students that needed a device. We based it on the need. And that turned out to be roughly 40,000 devices that are out there now, still being used since last spring. So that came with its own set of challenges to get that put in place how we support that with break fix and loss and damage, those kinds of things. But our staff has stepped up. In addition to that, we knew there was a population of our kids that needed internet connectivity. So we surveyed our parents going into last March, roughly a year ago now. We surveyed our parents and we came back with the data that said that there's about 7,000 families that need connectivity. So we worked with Kajit, one of our partners, Verizon as well, and AT&T since then, and we've distributed 7,000 hotspots. You see the picture there on the right. That was last spring. We had a drive-through process at our central office where families registered for a time slot to come by and pick up their devices. And those, I was able to move those to unlimited data plans, and they will carry us all the way through summer school this year. So we've got those, and we're starting to think about what next year may look like with connectivity needs. Yeah, Nicolette, you can advance us there. We thought, hey, we've got neighborhoods of low connectivity and underserved communities. We developed some outdoor Wi-Fi buses, some outdoor wireless that we hung on 17 of our yellow buses. These are not just standard hotspots. This was a true outdoor industrial grade wireless that we were able to outfit on these school buses, and we had those running into our neighborhoods, our community centers, our parks. We had a schedule throughout the last, as we went into the fall. We developed this over the summer and rolled it out as we went into the fall of this year. And we gave our students an opportunity to come to certain locations in their neighborhoods and have Wi-Fi connectivity by utilizing our mobile Wi-Fi on our buses. In addition to that, we took 43 of our school sites, and we're planning to roll this to all of our school sites, but we identified 43 sites that are kind of our inner neighborhood type schools that had a lot of housing development around them, and we installed outdoor wireless access points on those devices. Some of which, 4 or 5, kind of touching the whole perimeter of the campus, which proved to push Wi-Fi into those neighborhoods and those surrounding housing communities, apartment complexes, what have you, depending on the layout of the school. And that gave our students yet another opportunity to have connectivity in their homes. So that's worked out pretty well. And of course, we're going to utilize that going forward for all kinds of other purposes beyond the COVID pandemic support. And we partner with community learning centers. So we've got roughly 17 community centers, whether it be YMCA or some church organizations that all wanted to spin up learning centers that we've supported. We've gone into those learning centers with devices. We've gone into those learning centers with additional Wi-Fi capabilities, providing hotspots to them. And it's been a great partnership with these community agencies to provide a place for students to go that may need extra support during the day to receive tutoring, connectivity help, or what have you in these learning centers. And they're still ongoing today, and we hope those partnerships will continue beyond the pandemic as well. I think that was my last slide, Nicolette. I think the questions, we've done a lot. It's been a challenge, I would say. It's been rewarding, but it's also been it's been a lot of work. But we've tackled it together, and we can stop here and ask for questions if you'd like, and if anything that we can do to share what we've done to maybe help other districts move forward.
Yeah, this is not a small undertaking. You are one of the bigger districts, so it was probably really quite a journey. And there's more than just the two of you got involved in all this. Can you each talk a little bit about those leadership moments that you kind of went through where you had to corral everyone and go, okay, let's all go this direction? Or
I can maybe start with that. At the time, let's see, last March, our superintendent came to me and said she wanted to go live. What was it, Nicolette? 4 days. She wanted a 4-day turnaround from closing school to spinning up remote learning. So I took a deep breath on that, but we really, my staff, I got a staff of 61 folks, from technicians all the way through data support and power school, those kinds of things. But we all pulled together and we developed a plan, not only to tackle devices, but just to give the students and families the support that they needed to launch. And we did. It wasn't perfect, but we were able, with a 4-day turnaround, to spin up remote learning through Power School Learning, and then eventually through Canvas, as Nicolette mentioned. And then we continue to support families with their connectivity needs. But we had very little downtime when the physical school closure happened. Nicolette?
Yeah, and then another corralling moment, I would say, was the state required every district to develop a remote learning plan. Obviously, when we closed in March, it was a quick 4-day turnaround, and we didn't have a lot of prep time for that response. And so every district had to develop a remote learning plan for how we would come back in the fall. And that required a huge group of collaboration, not only instructional, technology, transportation, student services, counselors. So multiple departments had to work together to develop this really comprehensive plan on what learning would look like when we came back in the fall. So that was probably one of our biggest collaborative efforts to develop this plan to submit to the state last July.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing. I wouldn't have wanted to be in your shoes, but at the same time, it's everything changed, and now also expectations of the American public are changing. That's showing up in all of our research.
Yes.
What's happening out there? So what are your thoughts going forward? In terms of the structure, and particularly you, Nicolette, how learning is executed now is, people are expecting a lot more flexibility.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild to almost teach sometimes through parents. So there's a whole dynamic there. So what are your thoughts on that? And then also you, Kevin.
Yeah, it's been a lovely roller coaster. So we learned that asynchronous alone did not work, but that was the first step to get our work moved into a digital platform and securing digital resources, textbook resources digitally, and then reflecting on that and improving upon that. We've continued to evolve, and getting feedback from teachers on what they need. So adapting our professional development. But we also know that our kids have not had the same amount of instructional time that they normally would have in a school year. When we went to remote learning, we had to balance, I didn't realize I was still sharing the screen, but we had to balance the screen time. So although there was a certain instructional time we'd like to have kids learning, the screen time was a challenge, and our parents were upset, and they didn't want their child, they didn't want their child staring at a screen all day long. So we had to build a new schedule where students would have like a short 20-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute high school block of instruction, and then a break. And we had to build in brain breaks and realize the sedentary nature of sitting and learning remotely. So that was an adjustment for us. And then again, moving to concurrent practice is an adjustment as we're bringing more students back face to face. But going forward, knowing that we are going to move towards more of a personalized digital learning platform, utilizing technology effectively to drive instruction, and then making sure our teachers have the best practices and the best tools to do that are some of our focuses going forward. I'll turn to Kevin if there's anything
The only
else.
thing I would add there is that the encouraging piece for me, from my standpoint, and what I'm in charge of here at the district, is that the progression of our teachers with their technology skill sets has been amazing to watch. Before the pandemic, we would, obviously lots of staff development, professional development opportunities for teachers to integrate technology into their practice. And now it's been very seamless. Our teachers have really stepped up, and not only on their technical skills, but how they see technology playing a role around student engagement, and how it can help with closing learning gaps between student groups. And so if anything at all, if there's any silver lining at all, it really forced us to move the needle forward on our technology skills and our integration efforts within instruction. That's been a positive for me. And that's what I did say, we developed a virtual academy as well. So
Yes.
we spun all that up during that too. We have roughly, I think, Nicolette, 2,000 kids or so that are part of our full-time virtual academy. I foresee that will continue for years to come. So I think this remote learning and hybrid learning is going to be part of K-12 learning going forward. I mean, how intense it will be is yet to be seen, but it's really moved us forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And our national study in January showed that the average is 20% of the kids aren't coming back. They want to remain affiliated, but they don't want to come physically back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the average loss per district is 50% of students altogether. We know from Dallas ISD, they lost 15%. But a lot of districts are expecting students to maybe come back when things are quote unquote normal, but more and more people are realizing normal sort of left the building. So we're in a moment. So I think you guys are right at that point of, deep discussions about logistics. And that's gonna be heavy going, particularly in the academic side, and then backlash onto integrations in the next year. So I want to stop here for a second, see if anyone else has any questions. Otherwise, I'll keep chatting you guys up forever.
Philip Crawford has a question. But also you said in logistics, we also had to do a lot of training for our substitutes. So with teachers being out and quarantining, making sure substitutes learned how to use Canvas and how to use digital resources was another challenge that we were faced with. But this hand up from Philip Crawford. Yeah.
Have we unmuted him, Philip? I think Doug is unmuting him right now.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I mean, first off, this is just really encouraging to hear about how tech and instruction was already working together before all this happened. That had to have just really put you guys ahead of the curve. But the question that I have, I'm kind of curious because obviously there was a lot of collaboration internally with the teams that you guys have, but I'm curious to hear about any like external partnerships that you guys had or reached out to when it came to executing this like quick turnaround, one-to-one or distribution of almost 40,000 devices, because that's an incredible number of devices. So.
I guess I would say we heard a lot from our parents. We had a lot of parents and parent groups at schools that wanted to help, sometimes to the point of just offering too much help. And I don't mean that to sound the wrong way, but we had a lot of folks wanting to solve connectivity. We had a lot of community organizations in our area wanting to find ways to purchase hotspots for us and things like that. And, dealing with filtering, web filtering, all these kinds of things, we just couldn't start taking devices and help from anyone without a process in place. So we had a lot of overwhelming support. I think that was the biggest thing that I could say is that everyone understood the time frame we were dealing with and the challenges we were dealing with. So I mean, I felt a lot of good community support during that time. And obviously we had some parents that were unhappy about this, that, or the other, and just solving those problems as we went through this was something that I took on personally to do my best to do that. I actually spent some time in some folks' apartments and homes, helping their students get connected and things like that, because there was just and it's still there, but at that time there was just a very high stress level with our parents, with their work schedules, and kids are at home every day now, and just mitigating that and being supportive was something that I saw that our community organizations were willing to help us and support us through that.
And then, as Kevin mentioned, the community partners with the learning centers. So getting support to open up places where parents can send students during the day before our schools were opened, like the YMCA and other churches and organizations. So they stepped up in that way to offer space for students. And then for tutors, we have EdCore tutors now that are college students that are coming in and providing tutoring for our students. And then we also had a community partnership from an organization called Peer Project Impact that gave us money to buy digital textbooks so that our kids, while learning at home, had current standards aligned, rigorous curriculum, because we did not have that. And so how do you send your kids all home to learn remotely when you have textbooks that are in the classroom that they can't have access to or utilize effectively? So our partners provided funding for us to purchase those digital resources.
That's great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we're almost at time here. I really want to say thank you guys so much. I think it's been a busy year for both of you, and hopefully you've had a little bit of rest in between.
Not at all. Not at all.
And carry on. There's a lot that's going to be coming out at you about what's going on with hybrid logistics, pioneering things about, the sovereign identity management coming out. So stay tuned, because we think it's going to get even wilder in 2021. I hate to scare you, but so we're watching the private sector markets in terms of parent purchase, and it's off the charts. So the competition's only going to get stiffer. And I think big districts like yours, who have this strong of a management team, your conversations will be about how you're branding and communicating and the fine art of this majestic teaching on two rails. Hats off to your teachers, Nicolette, because this is no small thing. It's amazing. So thank you also, Kevin, so much. Wow. It probably took a small army to get that all done, and you're still not done probably. And then every once in a while somebody breaks one, right?
Oh, the devices, yeah.
We have stories that we'll just leave as stories.
There'll be later war stories when we're sitting around in rocking chairs and sharing those. Yeah, that'll be awesome. Well, good. Well, thank you both, Nicolette and Kevin. Thank you very, very much for sharing with us today. We really appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Firefly Computers and Trinity 3 Technology are now Trifera. And at Trifera, we don't measure success by how many devices we sell to schools. We measure success by how those devices are used to transform the learning experience. Today, we are at Hayworth Unified School District, and we want to share their story with you.
Our planning was definitely different this year. We spent the summer planning for the unknown. We didn't know if we would be in person or virtual or a combination of the two. Our focus was on preparing staff and families for a constantly changing learning environment.
What's wonderful is the opportunities that the technology provides. With COVID, we're not able to get out and experience field trips this year. And so we can bring those learning experiences into the classroom.
What we did in Google Earth is we would travel to like a ton of places like Japan or China, the Eiffel Tower, Washington, D.C., and see all those monuments, the Liberty Bell, the pyramids, and like all kinds of other stuff. You could maybe even see your home.
So we did this project where we pretended to go to different places, and we made these digital postcards that we could send to our friends and family.
The two companies that came together to form Trafera were really known for not only our educational hardware, but also our warranty services and our white glove services. And of course, we bring all of that historical knowledge and that expertise to the new company, and I think we do it better than what we ever have before. But we're using this as a platform to really rally around educators and empower them with the skills that they need through professional learning and through digital curriculum to be able to provide these kinds of learning experiences to students.
Moving forward, I feel like every teacher is more confident, better equipped, and more effective at educating students using the technology that we have. And when students are learning, that's all that really matters.
Trafera, transforming learning experiences.